This is the GPL Podcast, part of the Pull Tab Sports family.
Oh boy. Jupe making mistakes. I love it. And so I had to train for this marathon.
Make sure you'll stay awake for the game tomorrow, too.
Let's get this bandwagon going, folks.
Take
Come
that,
on.
Mr. Negative.
I think Bart must be watching upstairs. Rut-row.
Oh, is Jupe be awake for Thanksgiving tomorrow?
Jupe's roommate's worried.
Jupe's roommate. Now, here's Jupiter and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL Podcast, episode number 259. Well, good evening, Vigo. We're a day late this week. We tried to help people out by, leaving Valentine's Day open. It's probably best for, especially us men, to not schedule stuff on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I saw a bit the Big Ten Network did this week where they're asking coaches, like, what's the most expensive thing about Valentine's Day? And the coaches are like, if you forget to get something and have to make up for it and double down. So hopefully GPL Podcast. Yeah, hopefully GPL Podcast being a day later helps everybody out. And thanks for coming with us again tonight.
We kept it simple, just made a nice dinner at home. I got some flowers, of course, but just kept it simple. It's
what
nice.
Do you think Bob Motzko got Jess Myers this week?
You had to go there, didn't you?
Well, they were telling jokes at each other at media this week.
They kind of were. Well, let's bring in our guest today. Drew Cove is our guest this week, and he's been here quite a few times. It's a couple anniversary overtimes as well. Drew, thanks for joining us again, kid.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's always a great time.
We've had you on since what? You were 19, I believe we figured out
Yeah,
last
I was
time.
probably did it in my sophomore year apartment right by Baseline and Ritter and everything. I was just like a stone's throw. I was probably just sitting in my tiny little room, and it's come a long way to another tiny little room. Only this one's in St. Paul. So
thanks for keeping the lights on tonight.
Exactly. I've upped the lighting system a little bit over because just. As over time.
Well, let's take a look. Let's zoom in. Oh,
yeah,
Bukestead. That's nice.
The credentials. Yep. I mean,
yeah,
I know I hate to say things that make me sound really young, but he was when I was in like elementary school, middle school, he was my favorite guy. He was one of my favorite players. So back in and then in high school, I said, you know what, I got to get his jersey. When he was like phenom for the Panthers, obviously at the time. But
my hockey stuff is kind of over here in the corner, but it's an office too, so I gotta keep it even keeled around the whole way. Viggs, you mentioned Jess. Jess and Coach Motzko kind of going. Well, actually, it's mostly Motzko kind of getting on to Jess a little bit this week at the media, with how negative he's been, I guess.
Well, sometimes that's the role of the reporter is to point out issues you may see in a program. And I think this year we did have a lot of questions coming into the year with how Jimmy Snuggerud was going to perform. Playing with guys like Matthew Nyes and Logan Cooley, who you could watch this week on NHL games, especially Logan Cooley against the Wild the other night. It's a bit of an adjustment. And we have seen Snuggerud go through some challenges this year. His shooting
still is.
Yep, he's still going through some challenges. And then Justin Close, we had some question marks about him. I don't know why. We just don't expect to see a goalie of his stature, his height, perform at a high elite level. And he's one of the 10 Richter finalists this year. And this team is proving us wrong in some spots and still question marks for us.
But Drew, this weekend, a very successful weekend for Minnesota. It wasn't just Justin Close shutting down Penn State. It was the whole team defense doing an excellent job.
Yeah, and they've come an incredibly long way, and I think that was at least the biggest question mark that I thought about heading into the season. Obviously, with the big guns up front leaving, but obviously the 3 NHL guys on the back end that departed. So, and a lot of people, I think too, that might have been some of the question marks around Justin Close saying, "All right, Was he just a product of just a generational defense in front of him and saying, all right, he's able to make the shots that do get to him and he's not kind of going above and beyond. But I think we saw last year when he needed to go above and beyond, he did. And he's obviously proving it again this year. But the team that I think the defense has been really locked down second half, especially they've kind of turned a corner. And I think I was pretty critical of them early on some of the early mistakes and the young freshman mistakes that they're obviously going to be making. But I think they've really settled in, and obviously you play a team like Penn State, it's a little bit easier than Wisconsin and or Michigan State. But yeah, I mean, you come out of a weekend with no goals against. I mean, can't do better than that.
Close has done that twice. He did it to Wisconsin was it last season, the year before, or season before, Viggs? And now he's tied with Briggs and Wilcox for 13 shutouts in a career.
Yep, 13. Very lucky number to be on right now for Justin Close. And he's done it against good teams, too. I heard Adam Wodon on his College Hockey News podcast talking about this week. He's like, half of those shutouts are against top 10 teams. And it's not like he's getting 15, 20 shots in these games either. He's getting 25, 30, 35 shots in these games. So he's being tested. And I think the biggest takeaway for me against Penn State was that is probably the best Minnesota has played at defending the crease and keeping the eyes clear for the goalie, and a goalie with good rebound control, as I've seen in a decade at least. It had a lot of possession, they had a lot of shots, but they didn't get a lot of second chances that were dangerous. And I think a big reason for that was the defensemen were playing their position, tying up sticks, letting closer see the puck come into them, and closer didn't spill anything juicy out for Penn State, which is what the Nittany Lions thrive on. And if you take that away from them, they're kind of a simple team.
So otherwise, the defense, not just defensemen, but the forwards were doing what Motzko's been telling him to do the entire season. Just do it and you'll be successful.
This team right now is not playing dangerous hockey. They're playing winning hockey. And I think that's something we haven't seen a lot at Minnesota. You try to see the Gophers outscore their opponents. They can outscore their mistakes. When you're winning 3-0 back to back, that means you're playing smart hockey. You're not taking chances. Yes. You look at some of the goals that Pitlick had, that Hughlin had, that's them taking advantage of the opportunities, not chasing them.
I kind of want to get back to Snuggerud here, Drew. He really hasn't done a lot the last few weeks. He is kind of been that roller coaster. Obviously, he had that hot streak against CC, in January, a month ago.
Yeah, wow.
And now he's been quiet.
Yeah, I thought, especially right away, that CC series, I said, all right, he's finally, he figured it out. He played against the best in the world at that. We thought he kind of the same thing, honestly, what happened to Oliver Moore, I think, just the way Oliver Moore's played, I think he's still playing at a very, a much higher level than he was in the first half of the season. And I think a guy like him and Ryan Chesley came back and they've still played at a pretty high and just more competitive level than they did beforehand. And it's interesting to see that, yeah, Jimmy's kind of not sustained that, especially since the explosion in the CC series. But now he's, if you would have said last year, at the end of last season, if he was like the top offensive guy coming back, that he wouldn't be leading the team in points right now. I think a lot of people would have said, wow, maybe that's not too surprising. And maybe, an Oliver Moore kind of guy would take the mantle, but Brett Pillick leads the team in points right now. And that's, it's a bit surprising, especially given the goal scoring prowess of Snuggerud. But maybe if this is a slump and this is the bottom of the roller coaster and he's coming back up, now's the time to do it. The last couple weekends of the season, but they're just going to hope he needs to be on an upswing at the right time, and hopefully he can find his confidence in the next, or just find that touch in the next 2 weekends, to when it obviously really, really, really counts.
And Viggs, I've been adding a lot of stats and stuff to GPL recently, so I kind of been going through each game, adding them to the site. And I'm looking at it, and Snuggerud's got 150 shots this season. The next closest is Brodzinski and Pitlick with 83 and 84 shots. So he's definitely getting the chances.
Yeah, I was going down a rabbit hole of hockey analytics this month, and I was especially looking at the analytics of shots where the goalie sees the puck. Because I was talking about how Justin Close sees the puck, makes the save, no rebounds. That's winning hockey for Minnesota. He's so good at not letting any easy goals past him. On the flip side, when you look at Jimmy Snuggerud, he is maybe forcing his shots a little too much, even when the goalie can see the puck. And so it's not a high danger chance. It's just Snuggerud has it, and he wants to get those shots on net. He's so driven. He's like, I've got a great shot. I got to get off. I think the key for him is that there needs to be some side-to-side movement happening or some traffic before his shots are going to be more dangerous. Because if you have a quick release, that only benefits you if the goalie has to move before you shoot the puck.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to be a real key for Minnesota here down the stretch, is finding ways to get Snuggerud pucks where the goalie has to move and Snuggerud can take advantage of his quick release, and especially on the power play. You know, Bob was talking about the power play against Penn State kind of letting him down. He's like, you know, against Wisconsin, I think they got one power play or no power plays the whole weekend. And then here against Penn State, 2, 3, you know, not very many chances to work on it. So they're not really finding their rhythm. And so I think that's going to be important for Minnesota to change things up a little bit.
That's definitely a concern for me, Drew, is power play seems to be sinking quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, at some point in the year, it was just clicking incredible. I mean, it was at 25%, and it's like I feel like the Gophers just generally kind of clip at that level. At least from the time I've been covering them, it just seems, even if the team is bad, they seem to obviously have that talent level to be effective on the power play. But yeah, they're gonna need to. They need to create movement. They need to be able to create that. They need to be able to not be so predictable that teams can kind of fall into it and just get the chances in its own right. I mean, I know you guys were talking about the waved off goals at various points and just kind of the frustration there, but I mean, just getting the chances that they in capitalizing on the ones that they do get because they're so infrequent, seemingly in the last few weeks. So it needs to come back. I mean, they need to have those game breaker guys step up. I mean, they need some scoring off the rush. They need to be able to just use their skill to surprise the other teams and just to find a way to get the goals where they can. Because I mean, it's tough when you set up and then it's just kind of moving around and there's not a whole lot of movement, and it just doesn't end well for the Gophers. At times at some of these points. So yeah, they gotta have some of these guys step up. I mean, I think seeing Brad Pitlick, like we talked about a little bit before, I think his play has been really, really, really strong of late. And I think being able to have his shot also make a difference in a lot of different aspects of the game is going to be really important coming down the stretch.
Well, Viggs, they do have, we got 2 guys over 30 points, 1, 2, 3, 4. 6 guys with at least 20 points, and Connor Kurth is 1 point behind. Jackson Nelson is a couple points behind. So they do seem to be fairly balanced here.
And I think that's what I thought at the start of the season, is this could be a team that had 3 lines that could all score. You might have 9 forwards who could get to double-digit goals. We're going to be close to that, maybe. I'm not sure if they're quite going to get there, but it could be 7 or 8. For sure. And I think one of the things with Snuggerud is he has to realize that sometimes if the goalie's got clear eyes on his puck, he's got to get some movement, or he's got to change it up and get it to somebody else and maybe get it back.
Or maybe shoot low and help for a rebound instead of maybe trying to pick your spot.
Well, I think when he's out there with Pitlick and Moore, you can make a possession play and get a higher percentage chance later in the shift. Because I think one of the things that makes that line so dangerous is they're so aggressive. You watch Pitlick out on the ice. Mason Nevers gave away his nickname. He's the Spider Monkey. He is everywhere. He is everywhere. And he said Rhett Pitlick loves that nickname. They had T-shirts made up. for it.
That's awesome.
And so when you got the spider monkey on your line, you got to take advantage of that and get some possession, draw some power plays, get the goalie moving side to side.
We need to get those shirts for the general public here. Someone
I need to see a
send us
photo.
design, send it to Dinkytown Ethics, or just have us do it on our own. We won't make any money.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Gosh, but that's just incredible though to have. I mean, for how well I think Rhett Pitlick has really emerged this year, and especially his play without the puck. I mean, the speed, the doggedness on pucks in just a forecheck scenario.
I love that part of his game.
Like it's so much fun watching him. Watching the other team set up in the defensive zone to say, all right. I mean, if Pitlick's on the ice, I mean, it's not. They're going to be really scrambling, and you can tell that like really quick. They're like, oh boy, this guy's fast. We gotta do something here, and then they make a mistake. So I've loved watching him play. I mean, just skate around because he is just so fast, and it's always so to see one of the guys that like, because I think the college game is just so fast generally. I mean, you see it just seems faster than even at the NHL, and just seeing all these guys that are just really, really, really good skaters take that raw skill and that raw speed and turn it into something. And Rhett Pitlick has done that. It's so cool to see that on a team that you watch very regularly to be able to make a difference, to be even just that little bit faster than the rest of the guys that are already incredibly fast.
Well, I do think the difference in Pitlick is he's had that speed all his career, but I think he's just a little bit stronger, heavier, that he's able to make plays through contact significantly better than he's had in the past. And that ability to play at that speed with that physical play makes all the difference.
He still drives me crazy, Viggs, in some of his offensive zone entry passes. And I will text you this. I'm like, what is he doing? So I love the kid. He's great. I love what he's brought this year, but
some of the passes,
he'll be out doing something. I'm making dinner. I haven't had a chance to watch the game yet, and you just know what's coming for me.
I know what's coming. It's the passes backward. The south passes when he's driving and he throws the puck back to someone that he thinks is there, but just doesn't see the plays in front of him where he's got good eye contact and vision on. He's good with. It's just some of the stuff anticipating what's going on behind him doesn't always work well for Rhett. So if he's a podcast listener, keep it going north. We're a true north team here.
Yeah, it seems like some of that type of stuff that I've noticed with Oliver Moore too, and even when he was even at World Juniors, just seeing not necessarily like just south passes, but just the kind of stuff where it's like, boy, you were like 3 steps ahead of everybody else, and they couldn't even catch up like to where you were going to be. And like I remember in World Juniors, he overskated. He fanned a shot. He overskated it and just kind of watched it, like expecting the defender would be in to close on it. And then it came to be, I can't remember. It was a goal the other way because it was an odd man rush. But it was like, man, because it's just like he knew what needed to happen. It's just like nobody else was on the same page at the right time. But it's like you can tell like he's got the IQ for. He's got the head for it, and he knows what should be happening and what he can make happen. It's just the rest of the team kind of being all on that same step that he is, because he might be at step 7 or 8, and the rest of the team is still just getting past step 3 or 4 and catching up with it. So it is interesting to see all those guys kind of on the same line some of the time to say, all right, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to be magicians, or is it going to end in a couple of turnovers and then back to the bench?
And that actually brings me back to something that you talked about earlier this season with Oliver Moore Viggs and some of the things he needs to do. But before we get to that, we need to get to one of our sponsors, and it's Duke Cannon.
Jake Middleton here, Director of Hair and Hygiene for the Minnesota Wild. How did I get this important role with the team, you ask? I'd like to think it was because of hard work, but the truth is, I run hot. Yep, I'm a sweater. In my role as Director of Hair and Hygiene, I'm sort of like a player coach. Let me pull out the grease board here. Well, it's not actually a grease board, because there is nothing dirty about Duke Cannon. How do I help the guys stay squeaky clean? Helpful reminders. It's simple. Tarps off, Duke Cannon on. Say it with me. Tarps off, Duke cannon on. Tarps off, Duke cannon on. Pick the scent that suits you. Sawtooth. Thick body wash. Extra thick. And my favorite, Midnight Swim. Tarps off, Duke cannon on. Duke Cannon. Work harder, smell better.
And of course, we thank Duke Cannon for being one of our sponsors. Love our hair. Love our hair. But also one of our sponsors is Cub Foods, Vigs.
Cub Foods. Cubs love sports. They love PJ Flex headset. They love the Wild on 7th podcast. They sponsor the Pull Tab Sports broadcast studios. And they're in your hometown. They've got everything you need for pickup, delivery. If you're looking to eat healthy, they've got great produce. If you're looking to maybe spoil yourself with some pale ales or THC seltzers, they've got them at Cub Wine and Spirits. So everything you need, one of us. They're awesome. Cub.
Love me some Cub. Definitely love me some Cub. Let's bring Drew back in here. So as I teased before the commercial break there, Vigs, one thing you talked about this earlier this season on the podcast, Oliver Moore. He's got one speed. It's fast. It's great. I want to see him change it up a little bit. I think he's done quite a bit of that since he came back from the World Juniors.
Well, I think during the World Juniors, he kind of had some good reinforcement that you're just not faster than everybody. And you have to find ways to make more plays and create those high danger chances. You know, if you're just coming down the wing and the goalie sees you coming and you take a shot, most goalies at your level are going to make those saves. So he's learned you got to have a few more tricks in the bag, and he's working well with Snuggerud and Pitlick. You know, that's probably Minnesota's most dangerous line because they've got great speed, they've got great skill, they're hard defensively, they're fast in transition, and they're aggressive getting second chances when they do get offensive zone time. So he's really developed over this season, and he's a much better player now than he was at the start.
What do you think there, Drew? His passing is still amazing at times.
No, I mean, it's the same. I mean, similar kind of stuff, just from like the start of this. You could tell in the first half, he had some immediate success in the first few weekends, I think.
Flashes.
And it definitely tailed off. I think once they got to more Big Ten talent, he got to face bigger, heavier teams. Obviously some of the teams that are ranked in the top echelon of the country right now, and have been for a while. And I think, he realized that, wow, I've dominated at every level I've ever played at doing what I do. And now it all of a sudden doesn't work all the time. And I think he definitely kind of hit a wall there for a little bit, because he's like, all right, yeah, my speed and my shot, but it's not always going to happen because obviously as a freshman, he's going to be a little smaller. He hasn't had that time to, like you mentioned, Vigs, about Rhett Pitlick, just kind of get better at being physical over like a couple of years. Like that takes time. And who knows if he's going to act, if that is going to be realized at the college level. But I think he figured it out quickly after the World Juniors, like you said, just kind of realizing that, wow, yeah, here are some of these other guys that are pivoting and making, and they are the best at their level, just like I am, but they're adjusting to their circumstances. And I know, I think PJ Fleck likes to say you can't let the circumstances dictate your behavior, but in this case, it does have to happen for Oliver Moore, because you've got to find ways to be successful at this level if you want to really prepare to get better at the very next level, because it's not going to get easier at the NHL. I know that for sure. No. So not saying I played the game, and I know a lot of people might say, you know what, you didn't play the game, so you don't know, but college hockey's hard, but obviously levels beyond this are a lot tougher, and it's good that he's figuring it out. I think in the second half, he's figuring out ways to be to still make an impact and still make a positive impact, and kind of find his way around some of the other things. He's kind of finding his other pitches, so to speak.
There's one thing I wanted to discuss about the Penn State series, Vigs. Friday night, I think that defensive piece came together the most. Hughlin and Fish both take penalties at the same time. Hughlin a 2-minute, Fish a 5-minute. They've got to kill 5-on-3 for 2 minutes. They get it done. The crowd's getting into it. They're doing an excellent job. They're keeping Penn State to the outside. Very few chances at early. Hughlin comes out. Nelson goes back in. So now they've got not quite full 2 minutes, but like 140, a long time. And, Close did end up coming up big. But that just seemed like such a catalyst for this team. Because when that first happened, I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we go. This is not good. And they just shut them down. And I think that could be it wasn't just a big turning point for the game. That could be a turning point for the season about how they just shut them down, an offensive team in that whole scenario.
Well, definitely give me a weekend changer. If you have a bad stretch in one game, just like the Michigan State game, where they gave it away in the third period, that changes your entire perspective on the weekend. You go from such a high to such a we gave something away. Mm-hmm. And now they have something that they can rally around. And one of the things that's impressed me about Justin Close, and this especially stands out when the Gophers are shorthanded, is he does a pre-scout of the opposing team's power plays, and he has a really good idea of what they're trying to do, and he excels at reading the play and getting his eyes on shots really quickly. And some people say, oh, that's a great athletic save. It's a great read. And that's what makes Justin Close one of the top college hockey goaltenders, is he knows what to look for and what's important to scout and what's important to anticipate. And that stretch of hockey, that's not just him reacting. That's him going through his brain going, what are they trying to do and how can I beat them there? And that's what he executed so well.
And now Close is a top 10 finalist for the Richter Award, Drew.
Yeah, his positioning has been, I think, just watching some of the Penn State series, just seeing his positioning, and like you mentioned, because like he knows where he's going to be. He's planned out where he's going to be for that type of situation, and he just is. It's amazing how much wasted effort, or how little wasted effort he kind of puts in to making his saves. And that's the sign of, I mean, like, just like you talked about winning hockey and not chaotic hockey, you can be chaotic. And I think we saw it with Liam Souliere a couple of times where they're odd man rushes and you're darting across and he ends up in the corner when the net's scored, and when like the net's just wide open and you see the celebration happen and he skates around by. It's like, oh, how'd you end up in the corner? So he's just kind of like diving around. And obviously it's kind of tough to prepare for some of Minnesota's top offensive players on a 2-on-1. But I mean, I think Justin Close is, you saw there what makes a really elite college goalie, and just kind of the dichotomy between the two. Not trying to say Liam Souliere is just absolute garbage, but I'm trying to say that Justin Close really it looked like night and day, I think, in that series, and just seeing how good he's been. And obviously you guys have talked about it, we've talked about it, just how he came from out of nowhere to be the guy, and now he went from, all right, here's the guy who's just going to have to do it, and now, all right, he's the beneficiary of a really good defense, and now he's kept the team in a pretty decent pairwise position through this season with a defense that was definitely in flux at the start of the year and has obviously gotten better, but he's really proving he belongs in that top category of college goalies.
And I think one of the things about Closer as well is he's mentally tough enough when, if he lets in a squeaker that he should have got, Motzko's not afraid to say, yeah, he'd like that one back. And Justin the same way, I'd like that one back. But that happens so rarely to him that it's not a big deal, because he makes the saves that he's expected to make. He gives the defense confidence to take away passes across the middle and just let him see the shooter and take the shot. And as a team, when you have that kind of confidence in your goalie, you can play a very sound system in front of them. And I think that's what Gopher fans are seeing right now.
I think he only gets scolded kind of really once. It might have been at Penn State when he was playing the puck behind the net and setting them up for goals. And maybe it was Ohio. I might have been Ohio State, actually. He was setting them up for goals, and
because you could hear the mics. The mics at Ohio State were like right. They're like right on the bench.
The puck.
It's like the coaches had lapel mics for that one.
Well, we
If you want to know what Steve Miller sounds like during a game, listen to that Ohio State game.
He's
oh
loud.
boy, yeah,
he's
loud. He's loud regardless. Yeah,
he is. You can hear him on big broadcasts too. So we had some questions come in right before the podcast here. I just threw it out for people, and I've got Denny Gopher here. He's asking, did the new ice sheet solve the net issues on the Zamboni side of the rink? Were the old pegs enshrined, or did Craig Floor keep them for himself? Viggs, I think this whole problem was just solved it. The whole floor was redone and everything was new.
Yeah, because the pegs weren't aligned quite right there, and they had to kind of just like MacGyver them to get them to work. They've got a whole new concrete floor there. Everything's perfect for this setup. And, I'd like to get Portillo back in there, or
Tommy Napier.
I'd like to see him out there.
That was Jupe's favorite. I always remember.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because those guys were treating the net like a squat rack. So we haven't seen really a goalie like that this year.
And we really haven't seen the goals knocked off at all, unless somebody ran into them this year.
Right. And that's when they're supposed to come off.
That is true. So there you go, Denny. Next question. Vonner wants to know, what's the over-under on close consecutive shutout minutes? Currently at 174 minutes and 6 seconds. What do you think, Drew?
Is that pretty good? Is 176? Is that
174.06?
I think it's all right, actually. I don't know. But I don't know. I mean, I think it'll be more difficult against Notre Dame. I think, obviously, I think over the years they've gained a reputation that Jeff Jackson is pushed back on at times for being a very defensive oriented, or almost just like a defensive. No depth to them at all. No other dimensions other than defense. But I do think Notre Dame will score at least once this weekend. And so whether that happens Friday's or Saturday's game, I don't know. But I mean, if he's on a heater, he's on a heater. I mean, you got to get the hot goalie at the right time, and that's I think everyone's talked about it over the years. Just you got to have your goalie being hot at the right time and into the playoffs and into the end of the regular season. And that's how you make up for a maybe lackluster game in a tournament time, to say, all right, your goalie can get you out of it and kind of make or break a game. And you know what, if he can do that this weekend and continue this hot streak, then the Gophers have a pretty decent shot, I'd say, to make some noise in the tournament.
I see another question here from somebody watching live. Tim Hapke. We'll give this to you, Viggs. Will Bardo make it back to campus, or has his year in juniors killed it?
I think it's going to make him a lot further away from getting starting opportunities at Minnesota. He's a goalie that they like, and he did them a favor by coming to campus. It sounds like Nathan Arey is that goalie that they want to play next year. Mm-hmm. And he looks impressive when you watch him. Who knows what his mental fortitude will be like when there are bad games, because that's something we learned about Justin Close after he took the net. You never really know that with goalies, but he played that 4,000 minutes of junior hockey. So the coaching staff saw that and said, this is a guy we want to bring in. So when Bardo comes, if he comes, you're not trying to lean on him to be a heavy minutes guy. You're leaning on him to be a guy to bring out of the bullpen maybe, or give some competition. It certainly doesn't help that he went down to the NAHL. And now I think his first game, he didn't have a great game either. So he's got some work to do.
I noticed his dad still like retweets some of GPL's tweets once in a while.
Well, I think Bardo's still dating a Gopher women's player, so he really probably wants to come back here to Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. But this is a results oriented business, though. It's not friends on the playground. So the coaching staff has to do what they see best. And, they have got late commits at goalie before, and you want a goalie with lots of experience. We'll see what happens.
All right, let's throw this one at you, Drew. Zuzu wants to know on Twitter, initial NCAA thoughts. Number 2 seed. They go on a run, maybe find themselves a low number 1. I think that's a little difficult. But
yeah.
2 seed, what are your initial thoughts right now?
Yeah, I mean, I was reading that question earlier, and I was taking a look at the pairwise, seeing what was going on, and obviously they're number 8 right now, and I mean that to me, it seems like they're unless things fall apart, they'll be a 2, but and whoever knows whatever gymnastics they do to get certain matchups or certain teams in whatever regionals, but I think a 1 is almost a. I mean, I don't think beating Notre Dame. What did they weren't even. They just received votes this week, I think, right? So, but I don't think beating Notre Dame, even sweeping Notre Dame and beating Michigan. I mean, Michigan's on the verge of not making the tournament right now. I don't think they would, right? Like they're 14th or something like that, and there's enough automatic qualifiers that are just not gonna bump them out, but. Yeah, I don't think beating Notre Dame and Michigan would necessarily solidify any major improvement for the Gophers, because I don't think they jumped up. They didn't jump up super significantly thanks to the Wisconsin and Michigan State series, and those are probably the 2 most important that they've played. The last 2, just because they actually looked a bit more prepared for him this time around, when they actually had a little bit more body work to go off of from him. But yeah, I think they're kind of stuck in this 2 seed, but I think a few weeks ago we would have said maybe they would have been more bubble like and 3 seed worthy. So I think they're in a good position right now, but yeah, 1 seed definitely seems out of reach right now.
Hold on for that one, Viggs. I just had a quick follow-up on that, Viggs. Really, I think if they have a chance to get to a number 1 seed, they really have to go to Madison, in a semifinal matchup, and then go to Michigan State probably to bump that up and get victories there and win the Big Ten tournament. Really?
Yeah, I mean, CHN put out their pairwise probability matrix, which is always fun to see. They do the Monte Carlo simulations deal, and I think it puts Minnesota at like a 9% chance of getting one of those top 4 seeds. So it's small. It probably involves them doing a lot of stuff like winning hockey games.
I mean, winning every game here on out.
Because I think the top Big Ten team will be at least a 4.
Yeah, you got it for the best team in college, for the best conference in college hockey. I think it's only right. It's only right and just at that point.
So Tim Haskey asking if Jess is traveling to South Bend. He hasn't made as many trips this year.
Well, I do know that Jess has been covering the Big Ten as a whole this year. So he's had to give attention to some other schools. So he's not just following the Gophers on the road every weekend. I know he's been covering St. Thomas hockey quite a bit this season as well. He's
down at Gustavus doing high school hockey.
Yeah. So he's expanded his coverage. He's not solely doing the Gophers this year. But I do not know, as like I said earlier in the podcast, a little under the weather this week. Wanted to keep it away from the team for all of you.
All right. Of course, I have to bring them with Darren Bakken asking, favorite Gopher hockey jersey, Drew?
Ooh, I prepared this for a podcast we actually never recorded like 2 years ago. But there's the ones from like the 20s to the 40s I really like. If you go on Vintage MN Hockey, Kyle keeps a great site. You guys should go check it out because there's a bunch of cool stuff over there.
They are a former sponsor here too.
Yeah. All right. I mean,
stuff.
You guys have
great stuff.
Yeah, and I not to mention not to be a shill for your guys' podcast, but I love the commercials, the sponsorship. This is great stuff. I like the Duke Cannon commercial. That's awesome. I haven't bought Duke Cannon before, but I'm going to now. So, Jupe's got it right there. Tonight. There we go. Rocking the flow. I don't have. Yeah. See, my hair's way too long right now, so I don't. Serious flow.
All
right,
Matt. All right. Check that out.
I'll have to pick it up. But back to the jerseys. Anything I think from the 20s, there was like one that was like a mustard gold, and it just had like Minnesota straight across the chest with like a maroon stripe on it. I think that'd be cool if they could revive like a version of that, just to try something out and have something be different. I don't know. But obviously the ones that they brought back,
to get those looks though, because those looks were part of it was the fabric and it was wool and it was heavy.
Like really thick.
It looked great, but not great for playing hockey in these days.
Yeah, I mean, I love the ones that they bring them back for like the opening season at the new arena, like almost the barber pole
Bumblebee.
kind of ones. Okay, that's what they're
The
called.
Bumblebee ones, yep.
Those ones are cool. I love those ones, and they obviously had a lot of staying power through like the 30s, 40s, and like into the 50s a little bit, I think. So, I think those are just that. When I think of like Gopher hockey, I think of like that's the jersey. But as selfishly as someone who like grew up watching the team around this time, the ones that like from 2006 to like 2018, those are like the classic ones to me, which is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I think those are just that's kind of, and they were around so long. That's just kind of what makes me think of when I think of a Gopher hockey jersey, I really think of the home whites from whatever basically end of Blake Wheeler to end of Sammy Walker. So
Blake Wheeler got injured tonight. Didn't look good, by the way.
Ooh,
yeah. Leg.
What about you guys?
I was gonna ask Vigs, what's your favorite?
I really like that old deep maroon, like Herb Brooks with the Gophers across, and like the old Gopher, like the Prairie Gopher kind of
look. One that's kind of up like this.
Yeah, like the one they brought back for the Hockey City Classic in Chicago.
Yeah, I really like that one. Yeah. Justin Close actually has that really, really old Gopher on his helmet right now. And then the other one I liked is the one like they did for the outdoor game at TCF, the gold with the Minnesota over the top and the number in the middle and just the bars on the sleeve. I think that's a good clean look. Mm-hmm. I do like the old Gophers script thing that they have going now with the cursive kind of. I think that's a cool script. So trying to incorporate that
with it kind of curved. We were talking about that with your text a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I like that kind of arch curve to it too. So finding ways to put that, I think that could be cool with that script, like on a sleeve or a shoulder. Mm-hmm. They've got that vintage skating Goldie on the third, but I think having that Gopher script somewhere would be neat too.
The men need to take more pages from the women's book on the jersey design because the women have had great jerseys for years, and they look.
The budget is tough. The budget's tough, Drew. I mean, the Gopher men's team goes through about 4 times as many sticks, so that's a big part of the equipment.
Yeah, budget. That's true.
And they can only get jerseys every so many years, whereas the women can get jerseys more often. Vigs?
Well, their budget's different. Because Minnesota spends their budget on so many different things, like sticks. I mean that number probably went down when Vinny Lettieri turned pro, but
you got the joke before I could get to it.
So. Well, it would help if all the players were using a certain stick and they could get contracts. It would be a lot cheaper, but that's just not reality. So I would say one of my favorite ones actually right now is their current white. It does have a very retro look to it, late 80s to early 90s, when they still kind of wore those mesh jerseys that had the mesh fabric. So when I look at it, it looks, that's the first jersey I ever got was one of those mesh M jerseys. So it reminds me of that. And I see Snuggerud wearing that, and I think of his dad right away because his dad wore a jersey very similar to it. So I don't know if it's my all-time favorite, but I really like the new whites, and the new maroons are not great. And obviously the golds are great as well. The golds have become very popular, and they're undefeated in them, Vigs.
Yeah, it might seem a lot down the stretch here when they can wear them.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this year's set. I think it's a good clean set this year. So nice job to whoever put those together. Wish they ordered twice as many.
Don't get us started. Oh, I saw a question here from John Reynolds. Your opinions, Pino versus Strobel on the fourth line. Go, Drew.
See, I think I was really hard on Pino at the start of the year because I think he looked like a passenger on a lot of his just appearances on the ice. He looked like he was like a little bit weak on pucks, like on the wall especially. But and I really like Strobel coming into this year because I just like his energy and his like just the way it seems like he goes about himself is that it seems like a guy that you want like on the ice and a guy who loves playing for the Gophers. And obviously not to say that Pino doesn't like doing the same thing. It's just the way that Strobel expresses himself doing it. It just made me think, I'm like, all right, I want to give this guy a shot. But I think Pino's made really good strides in the time he has been playing. And obviously Strobel's shown flashes, but I mean, it's hard to it's hard when you have a guy like Jimmy Clark come in and I think play really well and take up one of those spots that wasn't really necessarily it wasn't supposed to jump up into the line chart like that. To obviously they needed a guy to fill a spot, but I think he's done really well. But I think Pino gets it now. I think at the start of the year I might not have said it, but I think I like that a little bit better than Strobel right now.
Let me just say the GPL message board Vigs, they love Pino. They do not.
Sarcasm, love people. It's sarcasm.
Sarcasm, definitely. They are mean to him.
They're very mean to him. And I actually feel like since he's got his cage rattled here with Strobel getting a little more ice time, Pino's responded with some more engaging play. I agree 100% with Drew earlier in the season. He was like a passenger on his line during play. And I think he just didn't have a whole lot of confidence going on. We've seen more engaged play from him lately. And I would like Charlie Strobel to get more run. I think he adds an element to the roster that is missing and can be very effective in the role they're asking him to play. Yeah, but I've also seen him make some minus plays out there. In my mind, I try to chart, positive and minuses for those two players specifically because it's a hot button issue for a lot of people on the message boards. And, Strobel's not 100% consistent out there. And so that's something the coaches need out of that fourth line is consistency and don't get your team in trouble. And I think we're still kind of feeling out how those players can fill that role. I don't think it's as clear cut as our message board would like it to be.
Definitely. We'll have to wait and see. He could turn out to be a hero, and we'll see all those people just kind of have to swallow it. But Vigs, we need to hit up our sponsors a couple more times here. So next up, Will Anderson Insurance, a former Gopher.
So he's a hockey guy. You can trust him. Close your eyes and think of your insurance agent. Who is it? Someone you used to know decades ago in high school, friend of a friend, an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend? Now ask yourself, what has your insurance person done for you lately? Are they saving you money? Will they answer the phone when you call? Do you even know their number? Or better yet, reach out to our sponsor, Will Anderson Insurance. Simply put, Will insures you the same way he'd insure his own family. And while we can't promise he'll save you money, let's just say you sure should get a quote. Call 612-361-7283 or visit willandersonagency.com.
And we thank Will Anderson Agency for being a sponsor of the podcast, but also another sponsor is Yoakum Real Estate Group, Vigs.
If you're in the market to buy or sell a house, 'tis the season. It's a little known fact that Super Bowl Sunday here in the Midwest is the official trigger point to list your home or start looking. And if you watched the Super Bowl this weekend, it was a fun one. I was on Team Chiefs, Team Kelsey. It was fun to watch. Great game. And if you're going in the market, whether you're buying or selling, don't roll the dice on your biggest asset. Sarah and Jody are living proof that sometimes the best one-stop shop is two experts working for you. Your home is your biggest asset. Think twice and call the twins at Yoakum Real Estate. Visit yoakumrealestategroup.com for more info.
All right. And of course, we thank Yoakum and Will Anderson for being sponsors of the GPL podcast. Let's bring Drew back in.
Would you have opted to kick off in overtime or receive in overtime?
Boy. And this is going to be a little embarrassing, but I did not watch the second half of the game. But I think I've heard enough of this controversy where I don't know. I feel like I'd want the ball. I'd want the ball right away in overtime. Just to say, all right, let's go on. If we can, let's go on offense. Let's get the points. Let's do what we can, and either win the game if possible, or if anything, just stave it off and just hope the defense can hold to whatever they need to. Just kind of a more known quantity, but I think I would have received.
Okay, and one other flip side question, more of a hockey person: do you want to shoot first or shoot second in a hockey shootout?
Ooh. Am I the Gophers or am I any other team?
Let's just say you're the Wild.
Okay. See, I'd say shoot second. And I don't that's just, maybe it's just because I've seen every home team ever decide they want to shoot second, especially in the NHL. But I don't know. I want to be able to react and say, all right, if I need the one goal to win it, to clinch it at the very end of the 3, and that's what I want to be able to do. So I don't know. I like the walk-off nature of it.
So I think your answer exposes your hockey expertise, because essentially if you kick off or you go second in the shootout, you know what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the advantage of going that second. So I think,
all right,
maybe in
true,
hindsight,
but how many of those players
football.
knew the rules had changed for playoffs?
I think they were.
I didn't even realize that.
They were asleep during their team meeting, Jube.
Because I didn't know that until they started talking about it. I'm like, well, here's the rules. I was explaining to Barb, and then they're like, no, if you score a touchdown, you still get the ball back. I'm like, that was new to me.
Yeah, Super Bowl.
And maybe the coach didn't tell his players. If he did, he should go out there. You win, you do this. I don't know.
Maybe they should do that before the shootout with the Gophers if they get in one.
See, that's why I was hoping so hard that Carl Fish was going to get the goal in that breakaway scenario, just to say, all right, they can score in a 1-on-0 scenario, and like even physical defenseman Carl Fish can do it. Then you know what, anything is possible.
And Fish gets the puck coming off the 5-minute kill last week.
Yep,
he scores there. The roof comes off the place because it was already very loud at Mariucci.
Like I was telling Nate Wells this week on our podcast, we were saying, you know what, St. Paul might never have recovered after that. The parade would have been thrown. We would have said, you know what, it's officially Carl Fish weekend in St. Paul. We would have thrown a parade just right in front of the old high school arena, and it would have been a great time.
All right, Vig, let's quickly get into Notre Dame this weekend. Both games on Peacock. You need to pay for the subscription. Pay the $5.99 for 1 month, Vigs. It's well worth it. We're pushing. You and I have been pushing streaming all year. We're going to keep pushing it.
If you were smart, you would have got it a couple weeks ago for the Michigan State
you could have
game.
watched some other stuff. But like you said, we were talking in pregame, Oppenheimer's coming on Peacock. So maybe buy Peacock for $5.99 for 1 month. Watch Oppenheimer later this weekend, in between the Friday game and Saturday game or something like that. But Jeff Jackson teams typically have been so well defensive. But as you mentioned earlier this season, they're not quite the same style as they have been past 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, as I've been looking at their season for them, it's one where they just don't have the structure that you'd expect. And I thought for a while it might have been because Jeff Jackson was trying to change his style. I'm now starting to come to the realization it could be because he's got so many freshmen and graduate players on the team, and it's just not working for them.
Opposite ends of the spectrum there, yeah.
Yeah, and they just can't play with the discipline that they're used to, so they're having to kind of think on the fly. So while this Notre Dame team is known for getting in rock fights, they're going to do some dumb stuff too. And so I think this is a weekend for Minnesota where they just have to stay out of the trouble and let the game come to them and take advantage, because Minnesota has shown that they can play that style and it works for them. So just don't get away from it.
So, Drew, it's like wait and then pounce, it sounds like, according to Vigo.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, they're a little bit of an irresponsible run and gun style. Like you're gonna have rebounds, you're gonna have play kind of quickly turning the other way. And I think the Gophers have the talent, and they have the ability to turn it the other way and to, turn something into an odd man rush the other way and take advantage. Obviously, I think Ryan Bischel is certainly a force, I think, as a goalie in the Big Ten and in the country. But the Gophers have the talent, and I think he's just a little. Justin Close is a little bit better on the Gophers end from that perspective, but I think they just got to be able to take advantage of broken plays going the other way and to kind of capitalize on those mistakes.
I feel like I need to get Frank Mazzacco to do a stat breakdown on Ryan Bischel against Minnesota over his career, because I see all the accolades that Bischel gets nationally. And I've heard people say, he should be Big Ten goal of the year back to back to back. And I never really truly see it. And maybe it's just because I see him against Minnesota, and I typically watch Notre Dame against Michigan too. So I'm just seeing him against these high flying teams. but I don't always see it, why he's so highly touted. So I thought for a long time it was Notre Dame structure. I don't know. He's got decent numbers this year too. So I will also be watching how he plays this weekend.
Well, if you guys are not following the Gopher Game Notes Twitter account, you need to be doing it, because the person behind it has so much data. And funny you asked that, Viggs, as one of his tweets earlier today. Between the pipes, Medina native Ryan Bischel has a career mark of 3-6-1 with a 2.71 goals against average and a 0.911 save percentage against the Gophers. So that is definitely not goalie of the year material when he plays the Gophers, Viggs.
I feel like I know how to pull up his career numbers just to see how they compare. Just because he's very highly touted.
He definitely is, but
you vamp for
Minnesota has done well against him, and or decent, I would say, against him.
Yeah, they're definitely motivated against him to play well.
Yeah. Plus, I think ever since the Sheehy penalty in the Big Ten playoffs, Minnesota has played pretty well there, Drew.
Yeah,
was that Sheehy or Novak? I think it was Sheehy.
Sheehy got the penalty, I think.
Sheehy got the trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. The trip.
Were they both on the ice then too? That sounds really like.
Novak would have been there around that time.
Yeah.
I remember. But ever since then, they've actually done pretty well at Notre Dame, Drew.
Yeah, and there, I feel like in my head too, there are some I still think like Penn State is just this uber scary castle on the hill for the Gophers, and you know what? They actually haven't been. It hasn't been the end of the world for them at times late in the last few years. So, and obviously when I always think back to the 5 straight games that they lost there. Right at the end of Don's tenure, and I'm always like, man, that's like the Gophers might never win at Penn State ever again, and they obviously they changed that tides, and it's kind of hard to break those feelings, because I just remember especially right when Notre Dame came into the conference, and it was very, very dominant for them, and I think the Gophers have since even the playing field at least a little bit, because obviously it's different animal playing against classic Notre Dame style hockey, not to anger Jeff Jackson, but classic Notre Dame style hockey the Gophers have struggled against in the past.
So what do you think, Viggs? What does Minnesota need to do? I mean, you talked about patience. What do they need to do to get have a successful weekend?
Well, I think the successful weekend for Minnesota is improving on some of the things we're worried about. Get on the power play by possessing the puck in the offensive zone, drawing some penalties, and getting to work on that in game situations. I think that's really important for Minnesota. I'd like to see Jimmy Snuggerud find more ways to use his shot, especially situations where the puck's moving side to side. You can't just come down, run a 9 route with the puck and fire it and expect to score all the time. It's not a high percentage chance, even for a guy like Snuggerud. So find ways to change angles, use traffic. That's important to me. I want to continue to see this battle between Pino and Strobel for playing time. I think Bob's kind of committed to letting those guys each get some chances. We'll see who's going to be more consistent. And then finally, I want to see Cal Thomas back in the lineup. He got nicked up a little bit this last weekend. Bob said he's going to be fine in practice this week. Availability said he should be good to go this weekend. Let's see him on the ice.
What do you think, Drew?
Man, I think I do want to see Justin Close continue the play, the level of play he's been at. I want to see just kind of him and the defense remain as cohesive as possible against what will be probably a relatively chaotic Notre Dame attack, just given it's it'll be unstructured at times. It might not be all what they expect. It might not all be what it's drawn up to be. And Viggs, like you said, just how planned out and methodical that Justin Close is in terms of his preparation for a team that might forget their own preparation at times, might throw him off. So I want to see how he deals with that and how the defense and him kind of work that relationship together, because obviously that trust level goes a long way and being built over the course of the season. But I just want to see that group still remain effective. And obviously with Landon Slaggert he's still one of the better scorers in the Big Ten, and they gotta watch out for him. So I think I'm mainly just watching back end. I want to see how tight the Gophers stay through this whole weekend, and see what the offense can get on the other side. Just would take advantage of the chances they can get, and if they can get on the power play, just keep it moving, and see what they can do, and hopefully restore some confidence in that. And if it goes to a shootout, I'd love to see if they can score one. I'd love it. I
think that was the last time they actually won a shootout was against Notre Dame, and 4 years ago.
Who got that goal, Jupe? Brandon McManus.
Mm-hmm.
That's a while ago, folks.
Gosh.
So, Mr. Cove, points this weekend for how is it distributed?
Boy, I'm wary about saying about going. I think the way you're going to go, Jupe, but I think it could be a sweep. I think it could. So, I think they could get all 6. I mean, if it does end up in like OT and they get 4 or 5, so I don't know. It could. We'll see how it goes, but I do think the Gophers get a majority of the points. I think the way that they played against the last 3 weekends, I guess, is they've shown that they can consistently play against the really good teams, and they can dominate the teams that they really should be dominating at this point in the year if they want to be considered one of the upper echelon teams. So I think they could easily get a sweep. It's just a matter of if they execute properly and they don't let the frantic aspect of Notre Dame to kind of burn them at times.
Well, I'm thinking that they have turned the corner, and like Viggs is saying, their structure is much better. And I think that's going to lead to a sweep this weekend. I've been calling a lot of splits actually lately, so I'm going with a sweep, 6 points. Go big or go home for this weekend for me. Viggs?
I think the over-under for closers shutout streak should be 234.06, which would give him another 0 on Friday night. And then we'll see what happens Saturday.
Okay.
I think this team is in a position to continue that shutout streak, get close to the record, and 6 points are what I expect. So sweep across the board tonight.
Wow.
Nice. It's been a while since we've had that. Let's go.
Wow.
Micheletti would love your positivity, Viggs. But we know he's already asleep.
Oh my gosh.
Well, thanks for coming on, Drew. It's been great to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's been a great time. I do want to shout out too. It's my parents' 27th wedding anniversary today. They've now been married to each other for half of their lives. So they're
nice.
So that's
Bukestad anniversary.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly why I put that up there. I did not, but that's a-okay. But very happy anniversary to my parents. So it's very I wouldn't be here without them. So
Well, I don't think you would be.
No, I very much would not be anywhere without them. So,
well, thanks for coming on. Definitely, Viggs. Anything in the hopper?
We'll see. There's a lot of youth hockey going on these days. So
yeah, I know.
My life is very busy. So stuff is coming. I had a great conversation with Frank Saratori today. It was just, it was like the funnest 45 minutes of my day.
Oh, you jerk.
Yep.
Like I said, people said, get the 2 Saratori brothers on the Ocho on ESPN for the Frozen Four.
I might have gotten a commitment from Frank to do a live tweet for one of the semifinal games in St. Paul. So we'll see.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for the GPL podcast this week. Got to thank Drew, obviously, for coming on the show again. Well, we are off next week since the following week the Gophers have a bye, but we'll be back on February 28th when we have Brad Schlossman and Adam Wodon on to kind of give us their views on changing the NCAA regional format. We know how that's gone recently. For those of you watching live, stay tuned for some overtime. For the rest of you, we'll catch you next week on the GPL podcast.
So, if you are a Gopher fan and you're headed to South Bend this weekend, this is the brewery you need to go on the way. This is the Dark Lord from Three Floyds in Munster, Indiana. This is their big Imperial Stout. This one's a green top, so I'm not sure what year it's from. It's a couple years old. This is from the Rob Scheel donation, but it's black as the night for the Dark Lord. Cheers.
Very nice. And hold it up, Drew. We got to see, what do you have there?
I've got also in my Classic City Lager glass. This is out of Athens, Georgia. I was my trip there a couple years ago, but I've got a Bell's. I found it at the liquor store on Grand Perrier on Grand. That's my local liquor store. I've got the Bell's Black Note Stout, aged in bourbon barrels. It smells very whiskey-like, but it's fitting on this very snowy day, very dark. So, cheers to you, Veeks.
Wow!
All right,
he's all grown up. He's all grown up.
I knew. I was thinking. I'm like, if I came with my usual like Leinenkugels or some other thing like that, I knew you would have been a little disappointed. So I figured I had to stop on my way home. I picked up something I usually wouldn't pick up. It just was like a one-off in the little.
Did you go to the store manager and be like, I need a big beer tonight?
No, well, I almost got. They had a couple of the prize. They had 16-ounce
Lost Moon.
Yeah, I think yes, and it was like in a box too. And they had a bigger one that was like $30. It was $30 for just like the 20 some ounce bottle. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that, but I like stouts, but I don't know if I want to pony up that much. But this one is very. I mean, the first couple sips, it's very whiskey-y and very stouty and very good. So, all
right,
you breaking out the wine?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Well,
maybe tomorrow.
Plenty of time to go. Oh, tomorrow.
It's a Thursday.
Yeah, which is an extra day. Come on.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe. I'd have to go way upstairs and get it. Maybe I will.
Is your roommate watching?
Is my roommate? Barbie, are you watching? I don't. Well, yeah. I don't think there's anything even ready to be open right now. If there's my favorite wine up there, Barbie, and you're watching, I'll take my favorite. I think there is a bottle of it. So.
Sounds like a personal problem, Jube.
Yeah, it does. Okay, you sent this to me during the show, Viggs. Let's see if I can bring this up here.
Well, I was just bringing up the pairwise stuff for everyone to look at and maybe to talk about with the visual for our YouTube listeners. Mm-hmm. But if you just look at the top seeds, BC's pretty locked into a top 3.
Yeah.
In North Dakota as well. BU's performance of the Bean Pot probably knocked him out of being in command and opened the door for everybody else. So that's why you're seeing the numbers the way you do. But once you get past Minnesota, not really a possibility for any of those teams to get one of the 1 seeds. So Minnesota's still in it, just not a great chance.
And right now, we got Michigan 50-50. What's this little 0% next to them?
Is that a losing record? Disqualifies them?
Are you serious?
Are they that bad?
Because I saw that earlier and I was like, what is that number even referring to? But
I didn't realize that. They're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean they're not doing great. So they could finish under 500 and still be in that percentage to make the tournament. So that's why that's there, I think.
Yeah, okay. 14, 11, and 3 right now. So I mean, if they
drop 4 games or whatever, 5 games, which could happen. Look at where they're going to be in the Big Ten tournament. They could easily lose one of their 3 games in the first round and then get beat in the next one. That puts them at 2-2 in the tournament and losing record here. So
And
yeah,
I haven't paid
if
much
they could
attention
lose,
to them.
yeah, they're going to be if they lose a couple games in a couple weeks, they might even just drop from 15. They would have to win a tournament.
But that 0-0 is signifying that it's possible for them to be in the top 14 and still be under 500.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what that is.
Yeah, they must have. Did they schedule a really kind of cupcake non-conference this season? Because it looked like. Because I mean, I've seen like looking at the top scores in the Big Ten. Like out of Big Ten teams, the top overall scores, six of them are from Michigan. And I'm saying,
scoring's not their problem.
Yeah, that's exact. But like even when you look at like just Big Ten numbers too, they're only I think there's like two in the top 8, something like that. But
okay,
when I was like, wow, this is on the overall, it's like they have the first 6 out of 6. It's just all Michigan play. I'm like, wow, and they're all 1.27 points per game kind of thing. And I guess I haven't been paying attention to who they're scheduling in the non-conference, but that to me just jumped out. I'm like, oh,
Stonehill was on there.
Oh, okay. Then
Did they really play Stonehill?
Yeah, didn't they? Or Lindenwood. Sorry.
I think they played Lindenwood. I don't think
and Stonehill. Yes, they played Lindenwood and
that's
no
what it is.
wonder.
They beat Stonehill 7-1 and 12-4. They beat Lindenwood 10-1 and 9-1. Let's see. My St. Olaf Mass is 19, 21, 31, 38 goals in 4 games.
Well, there you go.
Those maybe shouldn't count.
That's like the Big Ten in the first round of the playoffs.
I was hoping that Snuggerud would do that against Robert Morris, and it never happened.
Well, I think Robert Morris is a much better team. Like,
true.
Robert Morris is one of the oldest teams in college hockey, and they've been dead for 3 years.
So they're really old.
Well, they brought in that right magic mix of 21-year-old freshmen who Derek Schooley joked weren't eligible for the World Junior that they were watching the week before. And they brought in a bunch of grad seniors too, who are like 25. Yeah. So.
Hey, I mean, if you're the same age as me and you're playing college hockey still, like I've been out of college for 5 years now.
You've been out of college so long, you're drinking Russian Imperial Stouts that are aged.
Yep. And I got to be honest, the more I sip this, I'm like, it is just like drinking whiskey. This is really heavy. This is a lot. Tiny
Eric Shearhorn said it's like drinking a loaf of bread.
Yeah, it's like drinking a chocolatey whiskey loaf of bread. Yeah. It's just dense as can be.
It's delicious.
Tastes really good. Yeah. All that being said, tastes amazing.
This is one of my favorite pours of the podcast season so far. So,
all right.
You should do a beer podcast or something. These
I've been maybe suggested that's in my wheelhouse. Maybe it's an off-season project for us. Not to go after my own questions, but someone did ask me my top 5 off-the-shelf beers.
Yes.
It's been in my brain a little bit. So Steel Toe, size 7. It's my go-to. Almost always have it. So Steel Toe's in there. Castle Danger Ode IPA. Also,
Danger is my middle name.
Also in my wheelhouse. Love the hoppy profile there. Bell's Two Hearted. Definitely in my top 3. It's like the original pale ale. If I had to drink one beer, Bell's might be my thing. Todd the Axeman. Shirley's Citra IPA. Probably my number 4. And my 5th is always tough. Get that 5th one, complete the wheelhouse. It's probably Falling Knife right now.
Falling Knife is really cool. That's a nice spot.
Yeah. The only thing with Falling Knife is I don't know if I actually have like a favorite of their IPAs. So that always makes me question having it on the list. So I might have to go back and say Zombie Dust from Three Floyds now that I can get it all the time would be number 5 for anything off the shelf. But this for Jack Ramsey, the Dark Lord. So it's a Russian Imperial Stout from Three Floyds. The tops come in different wax depending on the year. So this is a green one. I'm not 100% sure how old it is, but probably like 6 or 7 years. So these are rare, so you can't just get that off the shelf.
It's nice that the Twitter responses now show up in our feed and we can add them. We didn't have that capability until recently, so it's nice to hear from you, Jack. Any non-IPAs?
I mean, off the shelf.
How was the Pliny the other night, V?
It was Pliny. Pliny the Elder is like the original double IPA from Russian River Valley in California. And when I lived there for a little bit before I came back and had kids, I used to be able to go there like every month and go to the brewery and drink Pliny's all the time. And it was just like the original double IPA that everybody's like, wow, that's the best beer in the world for a long time. Now it's gotten more popular of a style. More people can brew it. So it's more popular, but you still can't get it. Like they just don't distribute very far. It's supposed to be consumed very fresh. So I had a friend who was in California, brought one back. I figured the Super Bowl was a great time to open it. I think it tasted great. It's got so much more competition than it did 15 years ago. So it still holds up for what it is, but I think someone who has never had it and tried it maybe would not be as impressed as it was back then, but it was still great.
By the way, I was shocked that we had a long show tonight. I literally threw in a couple topics on our lineup at 9:15 or something like that tonight. And we went over an hour on the main podcast. I was surprised.
Just good at talking, I guess.
Yeah. We're good at BSing, apparently.
We're good.
Oh, yeah.
They got these fine graphics now. Ooh, any non-IPAs?
Non-IPAs?
I really like Bent Paddle's Black IPA and then their coffee stout or coffee version of it. Those two are really good. I Cold press, yeah.
Yeah, they have
cold
it at
press
Sweeney's down the street. I live right by Sweeney's Bar in St. Paul. If you ever over in that area, it's the best bar there is. So
I like those two that are around the shelf most of the year. And then Prize Pills and Summit Pills during the summer if I know it's going to be hot and I know it's fresh. Both those beers, like if it's more than 15 days since they're canned, it's like, pick something else.
What are your thoughts on the Slugfest, Veeks?
I'll have one, but it's not something I'd pick out. Like I'll have it if I'm at like a event and they have it.
Because I don't like IPAs, and that's one I can drink and not feel just disgusted by. So I enjoy that one.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Viggs. What do you drink what popular beer will you drink? I mean, will you go out and have a Mick Golden or a Coors Light? I mean, is there any of that cheap beer that you still kind of have a hankering for? Anything like that still?
I don't know if I have a hankering, but I'll have a Mick Golden Light after hockey if that's what we're having. I'll have a Hams. I'll have a Hams every once in a while.
Okay.
I usually shy away.
I do like Mick Golden Light. That's not too bad.
Yeah. I usually just shy away. If it's Miller Lite, Bud Light only, I'm kind of like, what else we got around here? We got some filters.
Any water, bottled water.
Yeah. If I'm drinking something like that, I'd much rather have a Duck beer, like Andrew's saying. Like if that's the kind of realm we're in for the day for tailgating.
Oh, totally.
Some brats and burgers and hot dogs. Duck beer is just fine.
I see they have that on tap now. Is it just like Dinkytown bars or is it?
Yeah,
it's starting to get distributed more.
Okay.
So,
gotcha. Yeah, because I know just from the little cans and stuff they had at Stub and Herbs. I think we were out at Stub and Herbs, like I think for the Axe game, and they had it just in the little cans. And obviously that's just Stub and Herbs and it's tailgate, but it was yeah.
Ham sandwich was at every Gopher drinking event.
Taste of the Great Blue Waters. Hams. Sometimes you'll have two.
From the land of sky blue waters.
A Hams is best consumed.
Some of us remember when those commercials were still on TV. That was before you were born, Jack, when those commercials were still on TV. The stuff you've seen, those are just rehashes.
Yeah.
It's still a catchy jingle, though.
Oh, yeah.
And even if they don't make it in St. Paul anymore.
Good old 70s jingle right there. Late 60s, or probably 60s and 70s when it was popular.
Oh, yeah. My grandpa, I think, has one of those It's like it's an electric sign that just hangs on the wall, but it has this little weird little effect on it that makes it look like the blue water is like just wave. It's like
Oh, a little
looks like the waves are
shimmery, yeah.
moving. Yeah, and it's like straight from the '60s. It's super cool. It's it's cool when that.
You have to get
that's
some
plugged
video
in.
of that.
Yeah, I might have one somewhere. I'll have to find it and I'll tweet it at you guys. But it's a pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, it's still working. I mean, I think it's from the '60s or '70s and still works, and it's pretty.
Apparently, Hams doesn't taste good until like the 6th. I have a hard time drinking a lot of beer these days. Some of the stuff that you guys are drinking, that's just too thick for me. And some of the other stuff doesn't taste great, and you have to drink way too much of it. That's why I just go with, whiskey or actually a little more. I'll go with wine even.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, I've been doing a little more brandy lately too. A little sweeter because it's made from wine, but it's still got a pretty good kick to it.
Yeah,
a really good kick.
Like New Year's Eve, we had some Macallan, and that was great because then it's usually sometimes I don't know, you get into like you're just at a party and you have a couple of beers and then you say, oh man, I feel like full. I feel gross. I don't like this. But then it's easy to not drink the Macallan like it's water because it's
Jupe's got some experience drinking Macallan like water, making mistakes.
Really?
Okay, well, yeah.
Could we get another podcast opener clip tonight? I've had like 2 good ones.
Only if he splits.
Barb's brother and I, one Thanksgiving, it was like 3 Thanksgivings ago, we finished off an entire bottle of Macallan fairly quickly. 13, Macallan 13, I think that's what it was. And then we went half. Yeah, I think we went halfway into another bottle of something else too. I mean, definitely Barb was driving home that night. Oh. We haven't done that since, so that was that was fun.
My wife listens to the New Heights podcast now because she's a Swiftie, Kelsey. She's like, alone they're each like a 5 and a 5. Like I don't care about them, but when they're together, they're like a 20. So 5 and 5 make 20 for my wife. So she's like very obsessed with the New Heights
brothers
podcast. Yeah, the brothers. They do a podcast together.
Yeah. I thought that's what I was thinking. Like, are you talking about Taylor and Kelsey? No, but the Kelsey brothers together
because they do a podcast today.
Oh yeah,
and my wife gave me the update that they did their podcast at 2, and Jason Kelsey woke up at 1:30 to do it because he had drank so much at the parade yesterday and like all week, and so I guess his wife was not impressed with his behavior.
And this is the guy. He didn't win the
Super Bowl. He didn't play.
He was on a team that lost in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was partying.
Yeah, but
he's like, I was in Vegas from Tuesday till Tuesday, and it was too long.
He supports his brother. His antics in Buffalo were just off the charts. He's like, I'm a Philadelphia Eagle. I cheer for my team. If I was playing against my brother, I'd obviously like they did a couple years ago. But when I'm done, I cheer for my brother and I cheer for my brother's team. And I love that. Just love it.
Yeah. Funny, weird story. My brother actually might be going to grad school at Penn State next year. So
do you want to work for Brian Tripp?
I don't know. He does astrophysics and he's
so
very,
probably not then.
No, he's a very bright individual. And but I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, I've never been to Penn State, because I've only heard Nate's stories about getting to Penn State and how difficult it is. Mm-hmm. But now I feel like I'm going to be there, and I'm going to probably get to Pagula one of these days in the next couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't think it'll be cool to see that atmosphere there, because
you're gonna have to give us
hearing Brian and everything.
Scouting report on how hard it is to get a student ticket and sneak into that section with like a Blake Wheeler, Bukestad jersey or something underneath.
Yeah, I'll show what would be the best thing, because I feel like they all wear like random NHL jerseys anyways. Like
you should wear a Gophers NHL jersey then.
Wait, is there a Gopher jersey back there?
No.
No.
I have.
Not that one more, two more, like in the back with the gold sleeves.
No,
the gold and white.
Well, you got to have a Gopher jersey
okay.
somewhere, don't
this
you?
Is a, this
that
is
looks
TJ Oshie.
Okay.
Oh,
that's definitely not a Gopher.
Is that a Capitals blue?
No, this is white caps.
Or St. Louis?
This is
it's a St. Louis jersey. Okay.
St. Louis, white caps. It's kind of vintage now because it obviously can't get those.
Yeah, don't exist.
Yeah, I've got a Vanek jersey. I've got this cool. You remember these ones? Let's see. Let's pull it up here. Remember the white on the front? Oh. Got that on eBay because everyone hated him, so I got the Vanek one. I got a Kachina jersey. I've got Sharks jersey. I've got a Mighty Ducks jersey.
No Gopher jerseys.
Goldberg.
Oh, that poor kid's had he's had so many issues with drugs, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, no, he's been sober, I think, for 2 years now, I think is what we saw. Yes. I saw that on good things I saw that on Twitter, I think like a month ago. And I was like, all right.
All this talk about vintage and he doesn't have any.
Well, my dad has he got one because he was at the U in the late 80s, early 90s, and he has one of the ones that I think they're the really long maroon shoulders. He had one that I always used to wear to games when I was a kid. I can't remember exactly what they look like, but I think Brian Bonnen wore them like 1 or 2 seasons or something like that. So around that era. So, but yeah, that was
he was mentioning earlier. He likes the script Minnesota that they won during the Leopold years, the gold ones. And they actually did sell some great replicas of those that had the Nike swoosh on it, and they were a good quality jersey. I still have mine. Well, I used to hang them up behind me during the podcast, all my different Gopher jerseys. So that's it, folks. Start donating money to Drew so he can get himself a vintage Minnesota.
Well, yeah, one of those like 20s ones would be cool, like a John Mariucci, Herb Brooks era one would be cool.
I do want to say, truth in discussion, there's been some chatter on the message board that vintage has been a little slow with response times to get jerseys turned around. So just fair warning to our faithful listeners that could be a challenge.
I noticed, when I chirped it, was about 6 months ago, I chirped at him about it. All of a sudden he was responding pretty quickly, but I think he's a bit overwhelmed.
He's overwhelmed.
He's in the medical industry right now. He works in the medical industry, which is just hell. It's just not great because they don't have enough people. They're working a shit ton of hours, and I can understand all that. But
it's very much a side hustle for him.
Mm-hmm.
So
correct.
I have a North Stars jersey that I got from my parents that I need to get customized. Not this one, but this one is actually like it's a practice jersey from
it does look like
Norm Breed years.
When they were preparing to leave. This is what it'll look like when we move.
So this is an actual one that my parents had from whatever, probably 1992 or something. But I have a legit where is it here? It's like the CCM, like just class.
Oh, so very nice.
I need to send it in to Kyle to get it changed or to get a name on the back. I just don't know which one.
Go with
that's I keep
Faber.
it.
Brock. No.
You mean the best player in the National Hockey League?
Oh, yeah, Norris winner.
Norris winner. I think he's
tough. In the Bedard coming back, it's going to be tough because he's just going to score and all that people just care about offense.
It's just a scoring award, whatever. I don't know.
It's crazy. Well, just go ahead. Speaking about stats, it's like bringing it back to college hockey for just a minute. I heard people talking about like Hobie Baker candidates, and the people I heard talking were just like, "Yeah, just look at these top 10 scores. Like no one's really breaking away from them." I was like, seriously, look at Michigan against Stonehill Lindenwood. These numbers are not what you should be basing your vote on. You should be going to your best conferences in the country and figuring out who the best players are on the top 3 teams in those conferences. Then start figuring out your Hobie field. If you have a Colin Graff who's just absolutely Paul Kariya performing in the ECAC, that's a candidate. But if he's not, he's just another guy in a league of Ivy League schools that can't take advantage of the portal.
Yeah, it's weird how these awards are just so scoring focused, and I mean even the Norris, like it's a it's usually an offensive defenseman award. It's not the Rod Langway kind of award. Like it's an aberration that he won it basically. And it's like, all right, it's the one guy whoever didn't score to get it. But I think Brock deserves the call there. I don't know. He's had more of an impact on, obviously the Wild aren't good, the Blackhawks aren't good, but it's
easy to be a high scoring player on the Blackhawks when
Yeah.
they're bad and there's no responsibility and there's no care, and you can just the other teams probably checked out some games than Brock Faber where people are point hungry against you and you're still playing it.
Yeah, and he's filling in for two. I mean, I think Jonas Brodin when he was out, and obviously Jared Spurgeon when now that he's out for the rest of the season. I mean, those are two of the top 30 defensemen in the NHL, I would say. I think Brodin, I rate Brodin a little higher than everybody else. He's probably my favorite NHL player besides Brock Faber, but like, I don't know, like you filling in for those guys and taking all the minutes and playing 25, 26, 27 minutes a night and having very little defensive like flaws when it comes to doing all that. So that is a good point. I did not get any when I was in middle school or high school, when I was like in my peak, like
they were making utter crap back then.
0.6 year was probably that was like the peak of my like childhood fandom, and that was not a great time to be able to buy jerseys like that, because I remember I'd walk into Goldie's and there wasn't really a lot to do, but yeah.
Viggs, I had a question for you. Was last weekend the first time you were there as a fan in a while?
Yeah, quite a while. I brought both my kids to that matinee hockey game because it was convenient for them. They're 9 and 11.
Mm-hmm.
So they were great fans. They were engaged the whole time that we got there for warm-ups. They were intent on watching the players warm up and into the game, and Gophers delivered.
Did they get into the band in the march? I always loved as a kid the march around beforehand with the Minnesota March. That was like that was always the sign of like, all right, this is something different than just a regular hockey game, where it's like it feels the pageantry of it. And it's like I don't really get the pageantry of college football sometimes, where I tell a lot of people, I'm like, I just don't get college football really. Like it's just something that never really like I'm like, oh, I get it's there, but some people are like, oh, college football is so special, and I totally get why they think that. But I'm like, I grew up when the Gophers were their best year was Adam Weber, and I still didn't really pay attention as a kid. So,
no, they were into it. I don't think they thought the band marching around was as weird as Dad trying to give away jerseys. They're like, "Why are you giving stuff away, Dad? Like we can't. Why can't we have this stuff?" It's like, well, let me tell you about brand building and promotions, and agreements, verbal contracts.
Yeah,
So that was pretty funny. But they were into the student chants, even when the students weren't very clean. So they probably were more inquisitive for those.
Those are the more fun ones. Yeah, when you're a kid, you're like, oh, this is cool. Like they're saying bad words.
Yeah, bad words.
Shove it.
Yeah, and they were hoping for 5 goals. They were really hoping. It's like, can we stop it.
Who doesn't want Culvers? Who doesn't want Culvers, man?
How do they do it now with all the electronic stuff? Do you just have to show them your electronic?
Just show it. I don't know. I didn't get 5 on Saturday, so I don't know.
I've never tried. I never even thought about doing the whole Culvers thing.
Yeah. I think the first game I remember going to, I think it was 2009. Not that's like the first game I ever went to, but that's the first game I remember going to.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I think it was first weekend of the year, Gophers against Sacred Heart. Final score 9-0. I thought that was the coolest thing I had ever seen. That might have been the coolest hockey game. I thought, I'm like, they're the best team that I've ever seen. Like, why would I ever go to a Wild game now? Like, they just beat this team 9-0. I had no concept that Sacred Heart was like not good, but I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like I was 11. I was like, this is great. This is amazing. Like I want to be at this game. I want to be here every week.
Here I'm opening up my photo album to see if I shot that game.
Yeah, it was Sacred. It was the Friday night game. It was against Sacred Heart, and it was 9-0 final. And I can't remember what year exactly it was, but it was around that time. Kent Patterson year. Sorry, it's the Kent Patterson starting year. That's what it was.
Let me see here.
It was when he was a senior, and I think he was the starter that year.
Sacred Heart. I don't know if I've got anything from there.
Taylor Matson was the captain.
I don't know if I shot that game or I don't know if I saved anything from that because I've gone through and have gotten rid of so many photos because I just had 30,000 photos and it just gets to be too much. I did find one interesting photo. Vig, she'll be able to see if I can share this. I just happened to click on it here. Let me see. Present. Share screen.
Me in Duluth.
No, it's not you in Duluth.
Oh, that is not me anywhere. FYI, that is
no. Yep.
What is on that?
Fish.
Oh.
Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Oops. Those are little fishies.
Yeah.
And that is one of Lucia's favorite people, Fiona Quick. And her famous
it was 2011, October 7th, 2011, Sacred Heart.
October 7th, 2011. Okay, hold on. Oh.
9-0 final. I just had to go back to the gophersports.com schedule.
I didn't save any photos from that.
Well, I was there. I was in the old seating alignment. It was.
You said October 11th?
October 7th.
October 7th. I have an October 8th photo, and the only photo I kept was of Goldie that game.
So
it wasn't worth.
My dad had season tickets before they moved the student section over. It was right behind the little walkway. And I don't know what section it is anymore, but it was second row, right above like the walkway where the visiting team and the cheerleaders come out now.
Mm-hmm.
So, before they moved a little bit around. So.
Oh yeah, that was a good season because that November is when they. That was. 2012. That's when they went to Tampa, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not a bad squad.
I went to that Frozen Four. It was No, I went to 2011. It was my first Frozen Four that I covered.
Was 2011 here?
Yeah, that was the Duluth one, wasn't it?
Yeah. Because I remember, didn't Duluth win both of them? Like two of them here.
That was a tough year for me, that Frozen Four. I was disillusioned at the performance of the Bulldog fans after that win. Got a little difficult.
Though Matt Kowalska and Mr. Broughton dropped the ceremonial first puck for that national championship game.
Bit of a mistake. Did you guys see the Spit and Chicklets this week with Brock Besser talking about his recruitment at Minnesota?
I did not, but I heard about some of the highlights. So I haven't gotten.
How they wanted to reschedule or something, Viggs?
While he was in the parking lot. That seems like like an assistant coach probably dropped the ball on that. And when the head coach asked that assistant coach, did they have him locked up? Was it looking good? And he says yes. I would think a missed recruiting visit would be a problem, right?
That sounds
like
it's on base. Sounds like you're thinking.
I don't know. I'm a Brock Besser fan ever since his first TV interview, and he said like 44 times. And I literally tweeted, that's UND education for you. And he liked the tweet. He just got it. I'm like, I'm a big fan of his from now on because he knew it. He was a rookie. He's young. It was something like that. And the fact that he liked the tweet and got the joke, I'm a big Brock Besser fan. No matter what he did for not coming to Minnesota.
Yeah, he was a key part on that team. You need guys like that. Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
at least Sacred Heart coaches for all on campus.
yeah, that's good. That's going well these days.
Keep pushing it. We got to keep talking about it, Viggs, and obviously we get Woden on and Schlossman on in a couple weeks. So
yeah,
it'll
well,
be
I
interesting
think
if he's shifted his opinion at all.
I think Woden definitely is starting to shift his opinion based on his conversation with David Carl. It's not like he had a lot of counterpoints
No, he
to
did.
the discussion, and the people I've talked to on the other side of our side basically come down that neutral sites are critically important. It's really good. And every time I feel like I've pressed someone on that, they're like, it's an advantage for the bottom teams.
Yeah.
It's like, that is not a reason to keep doing what you're
Mhm.
doing. And I get that. And I also get that the perspective is college coaches have never really done anything for college hockey that's truly good for everybody. There's always some self-interest in the decisions they make. So I'll be very curious to see how this goes, especially since I feel like someone is trying to like drop in a hand grenade about the CHL stuff for whatever reason and make that the talking point, because that could derail things. Because I don't think any coach is going to want to agree to that. Now, if it gets challenged in court, NCAA is terrible in court, they'll probably lose it. But I don't think you'd ever see the coaches just willingly fall on that knife.
No.
So,
but like you said, but people said it's like it's always even Wodan said he was on Beyond the Pond this past week, and he was saying that we talk about it all the time, but then we get to the meetings in Florida and it just kind of gets forgotten about. That's like keep talking about it.
Yeah,
keep
it front
in
and center.
people's mind.
Yeah.
Schlossman needs to bring it up come late April, early May again, and start talking about it. Just to keep it out there.
Well, I like that Wodan at least is asking every coach he seems to talk to their perspective. And it's great just to get more people on the record for how they feel, and then they have to either defend it or talk about it with someone else or argue about it, agree to not.
He definitely has a beef with you, though. He is looking forward to talking to you because he's like, he doesn't like how you call him. Some of his arguments disingenuous.
Well, I think it is. I think the whole argument about neutral site is disingenuous. It's not about fairness or whatever. And I know sometimes the fair is where you go to buy a pig. It's not real life. But neutral sites because the low seed gets an advantage. Mm-hmm. That's not in any NCAA thing I've ever read.
No. And why should you be giving an advantage to the lower seed when, I mean, you should be rewarding success at that point. It's like, all right.
Well, Drew, because the pairwise is a very inefficient way to decide who's number 8 and who's number 9. I'm just kidding.
No, I get you.
But like, yes, if you play better during the year.
Exactly. Ding. You should have advantages from playing well and constructing a good roster and putting in the recruiting effort that the coaches that, I mean, obviously, again, the recruiting effort is aided by some schools historically being good. Like Minnesota distinctly has an advantage in recruiting because they just are so present in the college hockey landscape for years and years and years and years. But it's like at some point you have to reward the success they're having that year. It's like Michigan's having a down year. They're not going to get rewarded for having like a down year. You're not going to give them, all right, just because they're a lower seed. It's like let's level the playing. Let's manufacture a leveler playing field. It's like no, let's see the absolute cream rise to the top, and let's have crazy atmosphere. Let's have a crazy Big Ten tournament like atmosphere at Mariucci for a tournament game, because that would be amazing. Mm-hmm. And it's like it was only a matter of time before it. And like, of course, like we sat through like just absolute silent games at the X and at the Joe, and eventually, finally, it comes to Michigan and Minnesota at Mariucci for that title game, and it is. I mean, obviously, it ended poorly because there were cans and trash and debris on the ice, but like you felt the energy up until that point. It was really good. And like, and not to say that, not trying to throw that all away because that was pretty disgusting, but like let's embrace what it can be besides the kind of degenerateness of how it ended up. Like let's look at all the energy is positive, because like that's what you need more in college hockey. That's what you need more to like grow the game. And not saying that like we're all beholden to grow the game, because I feel like that always comes up in every discussion about like NHL or college hockey anywhere, when you're just talking about like, oh, we need to compete with the NBA and the NFL and blah, blah, blah. But it's so important to like for the sport to be fun and for people to stay engaged and for it to be like the cool thing that everyone like falls in love with on campus. Like when you go to the games and you see the band and like the pageantry of it, the fun uniqueness that makes college hockey fun is the atmosphere, student section, the band, and the speed and the unpredictability of it, because it's so like it's kids and like not kids, but it's like less structured than 30 something adults playing a game that they've been conditioned to like over the years, and to not say a lot, and to there's still a bit of rawness to college hockey, which is like we need to harness that. We need to harness that, and like in the biggest stage, we can't just say, oh yeah, all that stuff that we did for 40 games and for 4 or 5 months, we're just gonna like forget that happened, and we're gonna go to these sites where no one cares about college hockey. It takes forever to get to. People from the West aren't going to go because they have 2 days notice, and like a lot of people can't take vacation days. They can't like book $800 flights to Manchester, New Hampshire. They can't book a $400 flight and like a 10-hour like connection, or I don't know. Like it's just so inconsiderate to the fans that make the game what the game is, to say, all right, when the games matter the most, we're going to make it really difficult for you to be able to see them. So I like whatever that was, but Mike drop. Yeah. This wasn't on a drop it.
I'm gonna have to use that sound effect when you and there it is. You and Wodan start.
I'm gonna be watching. I'm gonna have my popcorn. I'm gonna have here a little bit less than this. I'm gonna have my popcorn. I'm gonna be watching.
Maybe we just have you on as a guest and have you on the side window there, just going.
I'll hold up numbers like 10,
you could be like Tony Reale.
Every time,
Tony Reale on like.
We'll be like,
all right, Vigo plus 200.
Vigo plus 200. Vigo, your time has been seated. Mr. Wodan, now your turn for a minute and a half rebuttal, and then I'll just hold up 10s or 9s or whatever. Like, if the argument was good.
Wow, we just got finished.
What is a radio show? Sound bites, commercials. I love this.
Chopped ahead for Harry, now up to Kessel. 2-on-1 with Goligoski. Kessel down the left, going in, he shoots, his goal! Take that, you stinking
Badgers! Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I got a couple of them here still. What's this one?
It seems like the number 1 team in the country gets knocked off the next week. You might go to number 1, now you got the weekend off, so maybe you can avoid that, or you thought about that?
Oh, we're really excited. We're really excited about that.
He said sarcastically.
I'm only talking to Jess Myers right there. Okay, I'm talking to nobody else. All right.
Can you give us anything on Walker? Injury, disciplinary, anything like that?
My favorite.
Just curious.
You're crazy. I mean.
And the best part is when Mosca says, I mean, he like looks right over at me. He's like, I mean, this guy.
Are you serious? Like, I could picture what Bob's saying. Like, are you serious?
You might have been there for that one.
I might have. I don't know. Was that a road trip?
No, it was Walker. I think had some concussion issues.
He got hit in the head. So, but you never want to say the C word.
Yeah.
In hockey. So
no.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I was there because I would have.
The Valentine's Day one, we got a clip, Jupe. We got to track that down and clip it.
Oh, I can clip that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one to add.
I'll just, because I can just record right from here and I'll grab that.
Yeah. That's another classic one. There's been a couple this year, so.
I see Celebrini got 23 goals. Gaultier's got goals. I'm just looking down my list I had up here.
Yeah, Celebrini
23 goals is still not. We don't have anyone pushing 30 yet, and it's almost the end of the season. It's just.
Yeah, I don't think we have a standout this year. There's so much parity. The teams are deeper than ever right now with the COVID thing. You've got all these guys who are fifth-year players. It's
Mhm.
pushed players into the junior leagues that extra year, so most of them are coming now
Mhm.
older. And just teams, if they have a hole, they just go to the portal. Look at North Dakota. Like, they did not set themselves up for success this year, and they go to the portal, and, thank you, golden parachute. We're just fine.
Here we go. Yeah.
Wisconsin, without the guys from Minnesota State, would not be nearly this good.
Mhm.
But they pick them out. They're awesome. Michigan State, same thing. They drew a couple of aces out of the portal.
I mean, Isaac Howard.
Much better player in an offensive system like Michigan State.
Yeah.
Weird. It's like, what did he think he was getting into?
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like, Nate on our podcast, Nate talks about it all the time. I mean, every week I hear Nate say, you know what, this is the advantages of having depth on a good college hockey team. Is like when you have the luxury of Bryce Brodzinski coming back, Jackson Nelson coming back, Justin Close, of course, coming back. Like, that is like, with that experience, they can have the old man line, like that. Just it can work. It works, and like, what they're doing. And I mean, what do you not like about the old man line? Do you not like Mason Never scoring and like the celebration, like it's his first goal he's ever scored every time? I love it.
He did have an ankle injury earlier this year too, on top of the concussion.
Yeah.
So he's been doing a lot.
I just wanted to see more from those old guys this year. I think they could have been a dominant line. I mean, even last weekend, I see Nelson get pushed off a puck at one point. I'm like going, dude,
yeah,
you're giant out there.
Yeah. I think when he's on, I think he is that can be such a difference maker for the team on how he plays and like generally how consistent he plays. And obviously there's some lapses in it, but I've always been looking for more from Brodzinski this year, just on the shot. Just because, like, he has it, and it's like sometimes he can pull it out, and seeing how he can be a pest sometimes. Like, looking at the way other teams like play against him, like even he
must be chirping. He must be the top chirper on the team.
Like the NTDP team, like they were ready. They wanted to punch his lights. I'm like, even the guys that are going to be like on this team in a couple years, like they wanted to punch his lights out. I'm like, man, what is he telling them? Like, he's just getting under, like, he's like the Jewel Eric's neck thing, where it's like people hate playing against him, but you're like, why? Like,
I think it's pretty obvious why Bryce is on the list.
Yeah, but
he's running his mouth out there. It's gotta be.
Yeah, but maybe he can pull. I mean, maybe he can pull that skill and that shot out when it counts, coming tournament time. But like, that's something I've been waiting to see more and more this year.
If this team wants to challenge for a national title, Brodzinski, Nelson, and Snuggerud need to produce, because Snuggerud kind of disappeared at the end of last season as well.
But here's the thing with Snuggerud, his line is still doing well.
Mm-hmm.
True. They're scoring points. Moore and Pitlick are picking up that slack. And it's because Snuggerud's getting so much attention. So I don't think you can say he's not helping. I think some of the players you want to refer to as slumping, like their whole line fell apart. It's not just their numbers. Like he's still generating attention in offense. Yeah. I just think we're missing the snarl from Nevers and Nelson this year a little bit. They're not as consistently aggressive for pucks in battles. And that's just, I think it has a lot to do with Nevers' conditioning, concussion, his ankle, all that slowing him down. I think Nelson has been a little more cautious and just withdrawn. Like he's trying not to get in trouble almost. And I just want to see, can he turn on the switch?
Yeah, he's obviously been the center of attention for some of these non-goals too.
Yeah. Well, and he just looks kind of casual in those situations. So I just think can there be a wire cross that can get him going? Because that makes that line totally different if he's super engaged.
We'll have to see. I think it's going to be really important though, because we can't, I know you're all on Nye's doing other things at the end of last year, but he didn't get a point or didn't score a goal for the last month of the season, and that doesn't help. It wouldn't help if Snuggerud doesn't score the rest of the way either.
I think that was because Snuggerud and Cooley weren't converting on the chances he was generating. I wasn't concerned he wasn't getting points because I saw him making all those plays. Cooley and Snuggerud just kind of fell off. And like what I'm seeing right now is Snuggerud and Moore and Pitlick is he's falling off and those guys are picking it up. Okay. So I don't think all that stuff's unrelated. I think they're all connected. I think Nyes was still making good plays and his line mates weren't capitalizing. That's what's happening. Here, Snuggerud maybe is not playing great, but his other line mates are picking up the slack. The line works.
See, I thought those old guys, the old guys, I mean the old guys who are like my age basically, I thought they were going to need to be on for this season to like for the regular season to push, and now I think now that it's like winding down into the playoffs, I think it's like Connor Kurth, Brody Lamb. I think those guys are I think Brody Lamb can have, like, if he's on, he'll be such a difference maker in being that secondary scoring touch that, like, you're maybe not going against the top defenses of the other team, but, like, man, he can really, I think he's been one of the unsung heroes of this year. Of, like, obviously not a ton of points, but, like, I mean, when he does get the points, I think he looks just incredible. And I think just setting himself up with that type of play, if he can make that difference in the postseason, I think that's some of the edge I mean, obviously I think goaltending is going to be paramount in terms of like making that difference, but when it comes to getting those other scores on the board, I think Brody Lamb's going to be right there, and he's shown really good flashes this year of being one of those secondary, tertiary guys beyond just the top line or the Aaron Huglins kind of dangling around everybody. So
he's fourth on the team in goals. I didn't see that coming this year. He's got 11 goals.
Well, I obviously saw 8 or 9 guys getting 10 goals, so he was one of them.
Well, I mean, like, he's at 11 now. Nelson and Huglin are both at 8. So they different. I mean, Moore's at 7, but Moore's got 22 assists. He's doing very well. Only Renzel has more assists, and Renzel's 1 and 23.
Yeah, 1 and 20. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. But that's good for him, though.
Oh, it totally is. But I'm just saying, it's like 1 and tons of assists.
I think out of all the defensemen, the younger defensemen, he has had the biggest ascent from the start of the year to now. Like he looks bona fide right now. And at the start of the year, he showed flashes of that brilliance and kind of being, I always attribute like those tall offensive kind of guys to the Mike Riley of the world. Like I just remember being so frustrated watching Mike Riley play almost all the time, just because it's like, man, what do you like? You get beat in the back end, but then you look like this just offensive, just savant. They go in the other way. And I think Sam's really pulled it together in terms of just being kind of finding that balance and becoming a good college hockey defenseman rather than just a good offensive defenseman. Because he's going secret mode on us.
No, he's probably just getting up and doing something. I've been adding a ton of data to the site this week, so like
yeah,
so I can quickly look up stats and stuff. I added all the stats for the teams for the players this season. And today, because next season I want to do a little bit more with Big Ten and stuff like that. So I literally just loaded all of the players of the Big Ten today. It was a nice little import, boom, done in about 20 minutes. So that, time. So that was turned out nice. I'm not going to do the whole entire NCAA. That's way too many games, way too much stuff to open. But I figured next year.
Too many teams now. Like there's more than 60 teams. You don't want to bother anymore. You got to worry about Stonehill and Lindenwood.
Stonehill isn't even worried about Stonehill right now.
No.
I mean, they had broken pairwise until they finally won a game.
Yeah. But they're still the 63rd out of 63 though, right? I think.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere.
64th out of 64th. My bad.
Yeah.
They don't have. They don't even get the benefit of having numbers next to their name because of the.
So yeah, I've been just doing nerd stuff all week, doing data, figuring out stats, figuring out the software that does it for me. Well, not for me, but a lot of it automatic calculation, stuff like that. So we'll have to see. Jeez, you're just leaving us here. Let's kick him out until he comes. Oh, of course, right as I kick him out, he comes back.
Yeah. He had to put some of the serious flow in. He had to make sure the hair still looked good.
Serious flow.
I know it's getting late, but you know what? He had to make sure the flow still was showing up. You know.
Yeah,
I'm tired anyway. I'm ready to go.
I just had to pull just a little bit of this out. This is from our North Dakota trip.
Holy buckets! That's a bottle.
Yeah. So still a couple of these left at 1010 Washington. Single barrel pick.
1010 Washington. Oh yeah.
Is that one of your spots, Drew?
No. I just know. I think a podcast listener, right, of yours that runs the place. So big Gopher fan.
Yep.
So.
Whoops.
I've been in there a handful of times, but never met. I believe Don. Is Don his name?
Yeah.
Never met Don himself, but I'd love to meet him someday because I know it's.
When do we go on for some Vietnamese in Woodbury?
We're going soon. Anytime you want. My parents go literally I think every Friday. I was actually, it's a great spot.
Can you go for lunch?
Yep, lunch. Lunch is. I mean, it's. I think they open at 11 every day. But they're.
I had it a few times when I was dating somebody from Woodbury. And it was delicious.
It's a great spot. Duke's Vietnamese and Chinese in Woodbury. It's right off of what I think Radio and.
Well, everything's off of Radio.
Tamarack, maybe. Yeah.
Drew's dream NIL deal.
No, that's it. No, that's the best place in the world.
Made it if they sponsor you.
I love that place.
Yeah.
But it's the very best. So if
you ever find yourself in there, I am tired and I need to go to bed.
Yeah. Same here. Got to finish the last of this beer. I can't do it on camera because that'll take 10 minutes. But
well, that's okay. We can at least say goodnight to the live. We'll say we still got 40 people watching.
Thanks for sticking with us, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us,
folks. You guys have a great night. We'll catch you in 2 weeks.
Cool giveaways at second Michigan game.
There we go. There's the balloons. Look at this sign. He does the heart. Yeah.
Oh, so it does that. Will it do it?
If you're on a Mac.
I'm on a. There we go.
There it is.
Love it. What even is this? This is ridiculous. I didn't know this was possible.
Oh, it's fun. All right. Good night, folks. We'll catch you in a couple weeks.